Hey everybody, this is Rustin Rose with Metalholic and the Examiner. With us today, the legendary Jon Oliva, and I believe co-writer and partner in crime Dan Fasciano is close by as well. How are you guys doing?
Doing great. He's wallowing around the room. Yeah.
Wallowing, okay. Well, we got a lot of great stuff to talk about. The brand new album, Raise the Curtain, coming out this Tuesday, July 2nd here in the States, already out over in Europe. This has been a long, strange journey, my friend. After more than 3 decades, we finally get your first solo album. Is it as much a relief as it is a satisfaction?
It's like giving birth. It's great. It's really great to do this, and the response so far has been really overwhelming, and I'm very happy about that. And this is cool. It's a little different, but I wanted to do that. So it's all good.
Nice. Well, Raise the Curtain is your first solo effort. I understand that you have finally brought forth some or all of your late brother Chris's final works. That had to be both rewarding and emotionally difficult.
It was very sad knowing that there's no more of his riffs left to mess with. He was Chris's music has been a part of all the JOP albums, and I got down to the very end, and there was 4 or 5 things left, and I used them on this album, and it closes that chapter, but it's also very sad, because I'm going to miss being able to work with his music.
Right, and the stuff that you used for this of Chris's that was still around, that's the stuff that even predated Savatage, right? That goes back much earlier.
Way earlier. I mean, the song Father Time, for instance, that riff that starts that song is the second riff Chris ever wrote. The first one was terrible. He played it for me. I was like, that sucks, dude. And he come back the next day and he played that riff that starts Father Time. So, the thing that's cool about it is that it shows people where we started. Before Dungeons and Sirens and Power of the Night, this was the first group of songs that we wrote together.
Well, and in a sense, it seems like it was the loss of yet another close member of your circle, Matt Laporte, that was the catalyst for finally making this record.
It was. It was definitely, Matt passing away was very traumatic, and it was also very similar to when Chris passed away. I almost felt like I was in a time warp. Because it was just so weird. I talked to him one day, and the next day he's gone, and I was very depressed. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't want to think about replacing Matt or a band situation. I just wanted to get away from it, but I knew I had to do something to keep myself busy, and it was the same thing with Handful of Rain after Chris passed away. That was kind of my Handful of Rain was like my therapy. Right. And after Matt passed away, this album became a therapy.
Right. And this was also a collaboration, as we mentioned, with your friend Dan Fasciano. If I'm pronouncing that correct, Dan, if I got it wrong, I apologize.
We just call him Dickweed for short.
So. No, that's right. That's right. Don't listen to him.
I had, on this album, with this album, I had, only my closest friends involved. Dan, Chris Kinder,
right.
Jim, Tom Morris, from More Sound Studios, and that was really the people that I surrounded myself with for this, and they all contributed. And this without any of them, this album wouldn't have happened. So right. They were all equally important in the process, whether it be writing, performing, or engineering or mixing. It was a very tight-knit situation.
All right. Well, Dan, what was it like for you to help Jon bring this dream to life?
Well, it was also a dream for me too. It was, I've enjoyed writing music with Jon, and the whole thing was very emotional. And I never had the privilege of meeting Chris Oliva. I wish to God I had, but I've listened to every one of his songs. That's for sure, repeatedly. So the whole thing has been emotional. It's been a learning experience, and I'm very fortunate to have had the chance to do this with Jon.
Nice. Now, and you two penned some 60 songs, I believe, for this album. How did you guys narrow it down to the dozen that are on the record?
Yeah, well,
that was a tough one.
Yeah, that was really hard, and we tried to make the album as versatile as we could, and that's why we chose the songs that we did. And we're hoping by the songs that we picked, we reach a wide spectrum of age groups and reach somebody's souls, at least for one or two songs on the album.
Absolutely. So does this bode well for a follow-up album?
You betcha.
Yeah.
Nice. So sonically, there's really a nice bridge on this album with the pre-Savatage classic 70s prog sound on there and all the elements of Jon's career since.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely covers the spectrum. It covers the prog thing. It covers the heavy side. It covers the ballad side. It covers the bombastic side with songs like Armageddon and stuff. And I wanted that. I wanted it to be the full spectrum. Not just one or two styles, but all the styles.
Well, it makes for a really intriguing mix, and that there are even moments on this record where I could literally see this being played out on a Broadway show. I mean, 10 Years really has that vibe.
Yeah, it's theatrical as well. Using the real horns and stuff was important. It gives it that realism, and it's a very theatrical type of sound to it. It's very like a performance. You went to a theater and sat down, and they turned the lights off, and the curtain's raising, and you hear raise the curtain, and then when that song ends, the band runs out and they start the show with Soul Chaser and go from there. That's kind of the vision I had with it. I knew it wasn't a concept record, but I wanted it to be like an imaginary concert with imaginary Jon Olivas all over the place, and that was the band. And, Raise the Curtain is the introduction of the show, and then the show goes. And, the bonus track, The Truth, that was a song Chris and I wrote together when we were very young, is like the exit music. That's the end of, it's time for you to leave, go home, and and I hope you enjoyed yourself.
Right, and fans, this is going to be a big question for all the fans. I don't know if it's broken out on the actual album itself, but aside from Father Time and The Truth, Chris's stuff is sort of throughout the record here and there, but are there a few tracks or places where his presence really stands out and resonates?
Well, probably Father Time the most, because that, like I said, that was like the second riff the guy ever wrote, and he was very back in those days. He was very he didn't think he was really very good back in those days. He was like trying to be. I was his older brother, so he was like trying to copy me, and he would like bring me this stuff, and he would play like a ton of shitty riffs that sucked. And then he all of a sudden come up with this, brilliant riff, and he didn't really know what he was doing. And he'd go, "Is that okay? Does that sound too much like Rush?" And I'm like, "Fuck Rush, man, that's great. Let's do it." And so his influence is big on this album, big.
Right. Well, and it's go figure. He started out so simply there, but he became the riff master over time. So.
Yep. Yeah, he did.
But your voice sounds as powerful as ever on this record, and Chris, of course, Chris Kinder from Jon Oliva's Pain, who's been with you for as long as Matt was with you, did the drum work. You mentioned sort of the names that were involved, but who, besides the drums and you handling piano, were there any other musicians on the album we need to know about?
The only other, besides Chris and Dan and myself, Jim Morris from More Sound played a little solo at the end of track 11, Can't Get Away. And another friend of mine, Lorian, who's a friend of mine from Transylvania, who moved to Florida, he played some bombs and made some noises in Armageddon and played a little blurb in Soul Chaser. But other than that, and the horn players from USF, University of South Florida, that was it, basically.
Nice. Well, it's a fantastic record, which begs the question, will you be touring behind this album?
Well, I'm going to do this like storytellers thing in late November, early December here in America. It's just going to be Chris and me, and it's kind of like I'm going to do some stuff from this album and go through the whole history, Savatage through JOP, and do some special songs and tell some great stories. And I want it to be a very up close, personal thing. You know, everyone comes in, and we're gonna have a good time for a couple hours.
Nice. So, and of course, that begs the follow-up question: with the loss of Matt, are you and Chris possibly going to go on and continue Pain? Do you know at this point, or is it?
Oh, we're in Pain all the time, dude. Yeah. I mean, we actually started writing the new JOP album. So, I mean, the goal now is to make the JOP album the heaviest album I've ever done in my career. That's my goal. I want to surpass Savatage, Dr. Butcher, and do something that's just no flutes, no accordions, no acoustic guitars, nothing nice and friendly, and just brutalize everybody.
Nice. A couple of quick questions before we get out of here. Going all the way back, can you give us 2 or 3 albums that changed your life?
Oh, boy. The Beatles' White Album, Black Sabbath Paranoid, Deep Purple Machine Head, and Queen Sheer Heart Attack.
Oh, excellent, excellent choices. So, last question then, just for fun. Fans love trivia, of course. Give us some fly-on-the-wall nugget of trivia from the Savatage days that fans wouldn't know about.
Wow. Well, I'm going to tell a lot of these stories on the Storytellers Tour, but I think the one of me being handcuffed to the tour bus was a good one. Now, we were playing in Virginia Beach, and we were playing Of Rage and War, and I made some comments, and there was this big bouncer guy there, and we got off, the show was over, we were in the dressing room, and I'm taking my jacket off, and I'm all sweaty, and this big guy comes in, and Johnny Middleton is standing right next to me. He's drinking a Heineken, and this guy comes in, he goes, "Who's the singer?" And I'm like, "Me," and I had my jacket coming up, and he clocked me right in the eye. Like, just hit me, and he was a big dude, he wasn't no midget, but he didn't knock me down. I just went to one knee, and he thought he was going to knock me out, and I growled at him, and he ran out the door, and Johnny was chasing him, and he ran out this door, and all the crowd, Johnny ran out and goes like, "Get that guy, he just punched John in the face," and everyone was chasing this guy in the parking lot, and the cops showed up, and they grabbed me and they handcuffed me to the rearview mirror of the tour bus. And meanwhile, this guy's like sliding on his belly underneath cars in this gravel parking lot. He has like 400 people chasing him, ready to kill him. And the cops go, "If anything happens to that guy, it's your ass." I'm like, "Leave him alone! Leave him alone!"
Awesome. Jon Oliva, the new album, Raise the Curtain, out this week, July 2nd. Dan Fasciano, Chris Kinder playing the drums. Thank you guys so much for taking the time to chat. We look forward to the album getting out there and hopefully getting a chance to see some of this live, whether it's behind the scenes with the Storytellers or maybe a DVD at some point if you get to do a European tour behind it. I know it's hard to do here in America. So.
Yeah, well, you never know, man.
Well, I appreciate it. Thanks so much for taking the time, and we'll talk with you soon.
Thank you, Russ, and you take care.